Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Stanley with Standley Handcrafted. Today we're going to be working with Wooden Wick Co.'s Virgin Coconut Soy. So this is actually the first time I've worked with this wax, so we're going to go through and try to test everything. Just like all the other wax review or wax testing videos, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go ahead and heat this wax up. We're going to let it cool back down just to see kind of where the melt point goes to. Heat it back up, and then we're going to add the oils, and then we're going to go ahead and pour it into a bunch of different containers and then test them out. So the containers that we're going to be pouring into for this one are going to be these tumblers from Wooden Wick Co. Everything on here is going to be on the website. You can see all the links to the video description or in the video description down below, so that if you do want to see what we're working with and what we're pouring into, I have everything listed down below. Along with pouring into this one, I'm also going to be pouring into just the basic jelly jars that I always do. I've got a couple 4-ounce testers here with an HTP 93. The only reason I'm doing this one is just because I know this combination works, and I test this one with all the different waxes just to see how well it throws based on the room and the scent and everything that goes into it. Now this is container wax, but as with all waxes, if you've seen any of my other videos, I always pour a couple different melts just to see what they look like, because somebody always asks, will it work for melts? So we're going to go ahead and pour it into a clamshell, and we're going to pour it into a shot cup just to see what it looks like after you do that. And also the oil that we're going to be using with this one today is cloudberry and balsam, also from the Wooden Wick Co. So we're going to go ahead and test this one. We're going to be adding about 9%. The fragrance load on this wax is around 9 to 10%. So we're going to go ahead and add 9%. We'll cut it back just a little bit, see how that goes. And then with this wax, we're going to be heating it up to around in between 180 and 190 degrees Fahrenheit, or 82 to 88 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to go ahead and put the camera down. We'll weigh everything, measure it out, and we're going to start heating it up. Okay, we're going to go ahead and load this thing up. And I'm going to put 1 pound into the melting pitcher, and then we'll get this going. And in case anybody is wondering, I use an all metal ice cream scoop. You can get this on Amazon. Somebody always asks in every video, so I like to point that out. It's just a metal ice cream scoop. This works great for almost every single wax that I've ever worked with. And I'll link this in the video description down below as well. All right, so we're at 1 pound, 0.002. So we're gonna go ahead and move this into the double boiler. Okay, and for this one, I'm just gonna go ahead and use the Presto pot. I've just got probably 2 inches of water in the bottom there, and we're just gonna let that warm up until the wax is melted. Okay, I went ahead and pulled this out. It's fully melted. It's right around just a little over 180 degrees. And I'm gonna go ahead and pour into each of these, and you can see in this one here, the reason I'm not using a wick in this one, or don't have a wick in there yet, is I've never used this container, so I don't know exactly what wick it uses. And I've got a bunch of wooden wicks from the Wooden Wick Co. That we're gonna test in that one. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour the wax, and then I'll just go ahead and do the wickless test, which is basically pouring wax in this one, cutting wicks, and then sticking it down in the middle, lighting it, see how it works. If it doesn't work, you remove that wick, and then you put another one in there and test. I'm actually liking this fragrance oil quite a bit too. That's a really nice scent. Cloudberry and balsam. I've never used this one before. And then we're going to go ahead and pour these. And I already know this wax is going to be too soft for clamshells, but it might work for these little wax shot cups. And then we'll pour that right around 3/4 of the way. And then I'm also gonna pour, now, I don't have enough in that one. All right, that's it. So we're gonna go ahead and let these cool down, and then once they're cool, we'll go ahead and test out the melts. see what the consistency's like, and then of course I'm going to put wick holders on these, and then we're going to test this one out and see how good the hot throw is. All right, so these are completely cooled. It's been at least a couple hours. I was going to go through and start looking at some of these. Now the tops on these are actually looking really nice. Real nice smooth tops. Can't see too much dipping at all. This one, since it's the larger container, you can see the wax residue on the side right there. That is just the wax cooling and kind of sinking down a little bit, but not much across the top at all. Very nice looking tops though. All right, now for the melts on these things, we're gonna go ahead and try to pop that out and see what it does. You can feel, just moving your hand around in that, you can feel it start to get a little soft. So they pop right out. You can see the wax residue on my hands right there. So they're definitely really soft for the wax shots, but for a wax shot, that's actually not gonna be too bad. You're just gonna pop that out and drop it into a melter anyway. Now, putting this into a clamshell, it looks really nice. This is where you're gonna find the problems with this one, is once you start to break these, now obviously I wanna state again, this wax is not meant for clamshells. I only do this just to show people what it looks like. So you can see it breaking apart right there. It holds up somewhat well, but giving that to a customer, I mean, you're probably not gonna wanna do this in a clamshell just because it gets so messy. And even if you tell people that it's gonna be messy, it's not meant for clamshells, you're still gonna get a customer that, that looks at that and wonders why it's like that. So definitely not a good look for clamshells. And again, this wax is not made for clamshells. But something in a wax shot, you're gonna pop that right out. You could probably get away with doing wax shots pretty well with this. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up kind of the first half of this video. Working with the wax is actually really nice. It's very easy to cut through, like I said, and like I showed in the video, just using a basic ice cream scoop. I mean, you could even use just a metal spoon and it's gonna go right through that. A butter knife or something like that. This wax is really soft, so you can easily get through it. It's not like a 4625 where you have to use like a hammer and a chisel to get through it. A very nice white creamy look to it. I actually like the look of this wax quite a bit. It looks nice and smooth when it's cooled. I'm gonna do a few more vessels in this one just to see what it looks like in like an 8-ounce jelly jar where it has more room to kind of sink down through the middle. This one is actually pretty good. It dips barely. It's got a slight concave in it. It is a little bit bigger jar, so you typically don't see big sinkholes in a bigger jar like this. So I want to do it in an 8-ounce jelly jar just to see what it does in the middle of that. Based on this one and based on the 4-ounce jelly jar, I don't think it's gonna sink too much. And then of course, wrapping this up with the melts, this is definitely not one I would recommend for melts. If you're gonna do any kind of a melt with this one, I would say go to the shot cups. You could get away with it. I'm gonna melt one of these just to see kind of how good the fragrance throw is. It should be pretty strong. Typically with any wax in a melt, you get a good strong throw from it. And then of course, there are waxes out there to kind of stiffen this up or harden the wax up a little bit if you wanted to put it inside of a clamshell. You would need to add a harder wax to this. The percentage is kind of up to the wax and what you want to get out of it. But like I mentioned earlier, it's not meant for melts. It's definitely meant for containers, vessels, anything like this. Now the glass adhesion is actually looking pretty good right now on the 4-ounce container. It's still a little too early to tell. We'll let that sit for a couple days and actually see what the adhesion looks like after it's gotten a chance to really kind of harden up. We'll give it at least 2 or 3 days before I actually get like a good impression of the glass adhesion on that one. Just because it's been a couple hours since it's cooled and it's still a little soft in the middle, and it'll definitely take a day or two before it gets fully hardened. And then as far as hot throw, like I said, I'm gonna test a bunch of different wicks in this one just because I wanna test the actual wooden wicks in this vessel to see what works and what doesn't. And then of course, we're gonna test the hot throw over the next couple days. So part 2 of this video will be basically the testing of this one, the burning of this one, the melting of the melts, and then the burn of the 4-ounce jelly jar. And I'm gonna do that one over the next 4 or 5 days just so that we can get a good burn from 3 days out, 4 days out, and 5 days out, just to see if it makes any difference to let it cure just a little bit longer than normal. And of course, while we wait for these candles to cure, I'm gonna go ahead and do the part 1 of the beeswax from the Wooden Wick Co. and the apricot wax from the Wooden Wick Co. So I'm gonna try to release all 3 of those within the week. And then of course, after that, I'm gonna do the part 2 of every single one of those, which is gonna be the hot throw and the testing of each of those waxes. And of course, while we wait for the cure on those candles, if you have any questions about what I'm doing here or the mixtures or anything like that, please ask in the comments down below and I'll be sure to answer them there, add it to the part 2 video that I'm coming out with so that I can answer those in the video. And of course, as always, you can follow me on any of the social media platforms I've listed down below. I've got my website, the email address if you want to reach out, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, anything like that is listed down below. And of course, please feel free to jump over to the DIY Facebook group, which is listed in the video description down below. Also, we just hit 28,000 members in that one, and there's a lot of good discussions going on there. Not only will this wax and this video be covered in that one, but all kinds of different waxes and all kinds of different candle makers are in there discussing 1,000 different topics. So please jump over, sign up, and say hi. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and thank you for watching.